For centuries, Europe moved to a predictable rhythm, a steady pulse that echoed through villages, towns, and cities alike. The land and its people were bound together by the turning of the year, each season arriving with a familiar certainty. The seasons were like a reliable clock, ticking through the year with dependable precision. Each sunrise and sunset marked the passage of time, and the people trusted in the regularity of nature's cycles. Winter meant deep cold, snow, and frozen rivers. Especially in the north and the Alps, the landscape would transform into a world of white, where silence reigned and the air was crisp and biting. Communities planned around this certainty, storing food and preparing for the long, dark nights. Families gathered around fires, sharing stories and warmth, knowing that survival depended on preparation and cooperation. Spring arrived with a burst of life, melting snow and turning the world green. The air filled with the scent of new blossoms, and the countryside awakened from its winter slumber. Farmers plowed fields, birds returned, and people emerged from winter hibernation. The return of light and warmth brought hope, and the promise of new beginnings was felt everywhere. Festivals and folklore celebrated this renewal. Villages came alive with music, dance, and colorful traditions, honoring the Earth's rebirth and the community's resilience. Summer brought long, sunlit days and warmth, perfect for ripening crops and outdoor life. Children played in fields, families picnicked under open skies, and the land was alive with activity. In the Mediterranean, it was golden and dry. In the north, a brief, cherished reprieve. Each region experienced summer in its own way, but everywhere, it was a time of abundance and joy. People planned holidays and harvests around this reliable warmth. The rhythm of the season shaped not just work, but leisure and family traditions, as everyone made the most of the sun. Autumn signaled gentle decline, crisp air, brilliant leaves, and the season of harvest. The landscape blazed with color, and the air was filled with the scent of ripe fruit and fallen leaves. Apples, pumpkins, and grains were gathered as days grew shorter. Families worked together to bring in the bounty, storing food and preparing for the coming cold. The cycle completed itself, bringing a sense of closure. Each year, the familiar pattern offered comfort, reminding people that change was natural and that renewal would always follow rest. This predictable transition from warmth to cold shaped European life. It influenced everything from architecture to clothing, from the foods people ate to the stories they told. The rhythm of the seasons was a foundation for culture, agriculture, and daily routines. It was woven into the fabric of society, guiding decisions and marking the passage of time. Everyone understood and lived by this natural order. Generations passed down knowledge and traditions, ensuring that the clockwork of the old seasons continued to shape lives, year after year. That old, dependable clock is breaking. For generations it marked the rhythm of our days and the turning of the seasons, a symbol of order and predictability. Now its hands are frozen, and time itself seems to be slipping out of sync. The seasons are no longer following their familiar script. Where once there was a reliable procession, winter to spring, spring to summer, now the order is jumbled, as if the pages of the calendar have been shuffled. Winters are milder, sometimes barely arriving at all. Springs can burst forth weeks too early, or seem to skip their cue entirely. Summers, meanwhile, stretch on with relentless heat, often arriving before we're ready. The clear lines between seasons are blurring into confusion. The once sharp transitions have faded, replaced by a muddled overlap where winter and spring or summer and autumn seem to coexist in the same moment. People see one thing on the calendar, but something else entirely outside their window. The disconnect grows with each passing year, leaving many to question what season it truly is. This slow unraveling brings a quiet, persistent anxiety across the continent. It's a subtle unease, a sense that something fundamental is slipping away, even if we can't always name it. Oddities, like a warm January day that feels like spring, or a late May frost that damages new growth, are now common. What once would have been newsworthy is now met with a resigned shrug. The old certainties are gone. Planning for the future, even something as simple as a picnic or a holiday, feels like a gamble. Weather forecasts are less reliable, and the familiar cues we once trusted have faded. The shift isn't uniform. In the north, deep snow is becoming a memory, while the south endures searing, record-breaking heat. Central Europe is caught in between, experiencing a confusing mix of rain, drought, and unseasonal warmth. The seasons have lost their distinct personalities. Once, each had its own sights, smells, and traditions. Now, those boundaries are dissolving, leaving us with a patchwork of unpredictable weather. What was once a four-act play, unfolding with grace and order, is now a chaotic improvisation. The script has been tossed aside, and no one knows what comes next. The psychological impact is profound, a sense of loss for the predictable world we once knew. There's a quiet grief for the traditions and memories tied to seasons that no longer arrive as expected. Familiar markers, like the first snowfall that signaled winter's arrival, or the crisp scent of autumn leaves, are vanishing. People search for these cues, but often come up empty-handed. This is more than a change in weather, it's a change in our relationship with nature itself. The rhythms that shaped our lives, our festivals, and our sense of place are shifting beneath our feet. The environment that once felt stable and enduring now feels volatile, unpredictable. Each day brings new surprises, and the sense of security we once drew from nature is eroding. The clockwork has been broken, leaving us in seasonal confusion. We are left searching for new patterns, new ways to understand the world, as the old ones unravel before our eyes. Winter in Europe is losing its bite. The deep cold that once defined the season is fading. Cities like Berlin and Warsaw see less snow, which melts quickly. Iconic scenes, children skating on frozen canals, are becoming rare. In the Alps, ski resorts face existential threats as the snowline creeps higher. Artificial snow is now essential, but it's costly and resource-intensive. The industry built on winter is struggling against its own decline. In Scandinavia, unpredictable weather disrupts the ancient cycles of the Sami reindeer herders. Rain on snow events threaten herds and culture. Milder winters let pests and diseases survive, upsetting natural balances. The cold was once a reset button. Without it, ecosystems are thrown off. The gentle winter signals a deeper imbalance with far-reaching consequences. Summer in Europe is now a season of dangerous, oppressive heat. Record-breaking temperatures have become the new normal. Cities trap heat, making daily life a struggle. The Mediterranean faces drought, water shortages, and fire risk. Rivers run low, crops wither, and water rationing becomes common. Heat waves threaten health, especially for the vulnerable. Outdoor life is replaced by hiding from the sun. Wildfires rage across southern Europe, destroying forests and homes. These fires worsen climate change, creating a vicious cycle. The long, hot breath of summer is reshaping the European landscape. Spring is arriving ahead of schedule, throwing nature into confusion. Trees and flowers bloom weeks early, sometimes in late winter. This premature awakening is a symptom of deeper problems. Early blooms risk being destroyed by late frosts, devastating fruit crops. The timing of spring is crucial for ecosystems. Plants, insects, and birds depend on it. Migratory birds may miss peak food availability, threatening their survival. This mismatch, called phenological asynchrony, endangers biodiversity. For people, the early warmth feels unnatural and uneasy. The joy of spring is tinged with worry about late frosts. The gentle transition from winter to summer is gone. Spring now often lurches straight into summer heat. The season of hope is becoming a season of uncertainty. Farming has always been a gamble, but climate change is stacking the odds against Europe's farmers. The reliable patterns for planting and harvest are gone. Early springs tempt planting, but late frosts destroy crops. Hot, dry summers wither fields. Floods from extreme rain ruin others. In France, winemakers struggle as hotter summers change grape quality. Some switch to heat-tolerant varieties, unthinkable a generation ago. In the Mediterranean, drought makes water-intensive crops unsustainable. Northern farmers face flooding and waterlogged fields. This uncertainty affects food prices and availability for everyone. Farmers adapt with new crops and technology, but there are limits. The farmer's gamble is now a high-stakes game. Food security for the continent is at risk. The foundation of agriculture, a predictable climate, is crumbling. Europe's wildlife is struggling to keep up with shifting seasons. Ancient instincts are now met with confusing signals. Hibernating animals wake too early, facing food shortages. Milder winters disrupt their survival. Migratory birds arrive to find food and nesting sites already gone. This mismatch drives population declines. Early flowering plants miss their pollinators, threatening reproduction. The breakdown between plants and pollinators is a silent crisis. Ecosystems are destabilized from meadows to forests. The natural world is dangerously out of sync. The blurring of Europe's seasons is a fundamental disruption. Our society, economy, and traditions rely on a stable climate. As predictability vanishes, the foundations of our way of life weaken. Extreme heat threatens public health, milder winters spread disease. The stress of unpredictability affects mental health. Agriculture and tourism face huge losses from droughts, floods, and wildfires. Repairing climate damage strains economies. The loss of biodiversity weakens ecosystems and their services. Forests and rivers in distress can't provide clean air or water. The natural world is our life support system. When it's in distress, so are we. Europe's shifting seasons are unsettling, a visible reminder that our climate is changing before our eyes. The familiar rhythms of nature are being disrupted, and it's easy to feel anxious or even powerless in the face of such uncertainty. But these changes are not a reason for despair. They're a call to awareness and action. This is a call to action for every one of us, no matter where we live or what we do. We must adapt to the changes already underway, and act urgently to slow future warming. This means rethinking how we live, work, and power our communities. Governments must lead the shift to renewable energy and support adaptation. Building flood defenses, greening cities, investing in clean technology, and planning for a climate-resilient future are all essential steps. Supporting farmers as they adopt sustainable practices in modern irrigation is crucial for food security and environmental health. Leadership is crucial, but individuals also have power. Our everyday choices, how we use energy at home, how we travel, and what we buy, can make a real difference. Choosing public transport, cycling, or walking, and shifting to more plant-based meals all add up to meaningful change. Support sustainable businesses, reduce waste, and demand climate action from leaders. Every action, big or small, helps build momentum. The seasons may never return to their old clockwork, but the future isn't written yet. We have the power to shape what comes next. Our choices now will shape the climate and ecosystems ahead, determining the world our children and grandchildren inherit. By working together, neighbors, communities, and nations, we can build resilience and sustainability, creating cities and countryside that thrive. We can chart a new course that honors our deep connection to nature, protecting the landscapes and wildlife that define Europe. This is the challenge of our time, and one we must face with hope, determination, and a shared vision for a better, greener future.